Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Lincoln City's pre-match show Matchday Live. The Imps looking to get one step closer to finishing in the playoff places, hosting Hull City at the LNER Stadium this afternoon. Got another big show lined up for you this afternoon. We'll be hearing from the manager Michael Appleton as well as Remy Howarth, who will be telling us all about his new pet that he's got at his house, as well as Liam Scully, who will be joining us live later on in the show as well. Today's topic, do get your comments in for this one as well, is what's the best game that you've watched ever at the LNER Stadium? Nice broad topic for you. Do get your comments in regarding that, and I'll do my best to read them out throughout the course of the show. In terms of today's guest, we've got a late substitution. Pleased to say that Mark Hone joins us. Gary Hutchinson, not with us this afternoon. He's feeling the effects of his COVID vaccine. So we certainly wish Gary the best in his recovery for that. I'm sure he'll be back for Tuesday night show as well. But delighted to have Mark on today's show. Mark, it's a big afternoon, isn't it? Both for Hull City and, of course, the Imps.
Yeah, afternoon, Sam. Yeah, well, wishing Gary a speedy recovery. I've had that the first jab, and knocked you out for a couple of days. So wishing him a speedy recovery. But no, it's a massive game, isn't it? Huge game for both clubs. So for me, a little bit of a free hit for Lincoln, really. I think the pressure's more on Hull than it is Lincoln after Lincoln's back-to-back wins have really kind of almost secured the playoff spots. Not done yet, but I think Hull might feel the pressure today. After they slipped up a little bit on Tuesday night against Sunderland. So, but a huge game, absolutely huge game. I just wish there was fans in the stadium. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it? What an atmosphere that would be today.
Yeah, well, that's the main point, I guess, this afternoon, isn't it, Mark? I mean, I have to give credit, actually, to Dan Thompson, who tweeted earlier this morning. He said, I should get this right if I'm going to read out his tweet. If there was ever a full day at the LNER, it's today. Just imagine the atmosphere. It's scary to think how good it would be. That was the tweet, or something like that. Anyway, and that pretty much sums it up.
I saw it, yeah. It would, yeah. I mean, it would be bouncing, wouldn't it? I mean, the 633 squadron would be bouncing. The whole stadium, the atmosphere, the tension for both sets of supporters. It would just be a fantastic occasion. And sooner we can get the fans back in, the better, especially when there's games like this going on. So like I say, I just hope everybody can try and relax it, watching it on iFollow or wherever they're trying to watch it from. So fingers crossed for a good game. I think it'll be a tense afternoon though.
Yeah, it certainly will. We've got some pre-match pictures as well coming to you. Pretty much live, these from the LNER Stadium. It looks absolutely glorious. Hopefully they'll come up there. There they are, Mark. There's the pictures. Another one of those, I say it quite often, sound like a bit of a broken record at this stage, but you just wish you were there.
I wish I had my boots on and I could go and play. Old age, unfortunately, and knees and everything else won't let me do that, but no, fantastic. Yeah, it just looks great, doesn't it? The sun's out. The pitch looks good from here. Obviously, we can't see it close up, but it looks good. It just looks set for a fantastic afternoon of, we hope, decent football. And I'm sure both teams will try and play decent football as well.
Mark, what will be going through the minds of Hull City at this stage then? Because it's a massive afternoon for them as well. They won't be buoyed by a crowd this afternoon, but they know if they win, it's well in their hands in terms of promotion.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they'll be edgy. They'll be a bit nervous, I would suggest. They'll try and draw on their experience. They've got an experienced manager. So it's just a nervous afternoon because they know Lincoln are in form as well and Lincoln are dangerous. So, I think it might be cagey the first 20 minutes. I don't think there'll be a lot in it. I think nerves may play a little bit of a part. But whoever can get the ball down and play their game, if you like, I think may well come out on top. But certainly, there's going to be periods of game where both teams are going to feel the pressure, feel the tension. And it's who I think deals with it the most for the 90, 95 minutes might come on top. But like I say, Hull will be just desperate to get the result that they want, just to get themselves promoted. They don't want it going any further than today. Like I say, they'll be nervous. There'll be anticipation before the game. Their supporters. I mean, my wife's a Hull supporter. I won't say what she said to me this morning because you might turn me off. But it's just a big occasion for both clubs. Now, let's not forget, Sam, Lincoln still could catch Peterborough.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, isn't it, Mark? I mean, in terms of the automatic places, because we have talked quite often about the playoffs over the past few weeks, but there is still that slight feeling that perhaps we could finish in the automatic spots. Where do you stand on that?
I just think It's an old cliche. Everybody rolls it out, but I really do think at the moment it's one game at a time, and I think Michael Appleton will be saying that to his players. They've done really well to get themselves in a place to get them almost secured. I can't see Portsmouth. I think Portsmouth have got to win. I mean, if Lincoln win today, Portsmouth have got to win their last 3 games or 4 games. I mean, I think they've got Bristol Rovers today, so you fancy them to maybe get something out of that. But it's a huge ask for Portsmouth to get themselves in there. So, if Lincoln can get 3 points today, massive game on Tuesday night, which they've done well in the last 2 away games. 1-0 wins, really good, defensively really, really tight. I know we'll come on to the defensive side of things in the later in the programme. But certainly then if you can get next 2 wins, 4 wins on a bounce, and then you've got a huge game against Peterborough. I mean, that is, well, that's just huge. I mean, that's bigger than today, put it bluntly.
I should just mention in relation to the Portsmouth Bristol Rovers game that you mentioned there, Mark, as well. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff this afternoon. Ronan Curtis has scored for Danny Cowley's Portsmouth, then leading Bristol Rovers at the moment. In terms of today's topic that I mentioned beforehand, the best game that you've ever watched at the LNER Stadium. Comments coming in thick and fast regarding that. Malcolm says it wasn't called the LNER Stadium then, but the best ever was the 9-0. If I can click it in, the best ever was a 9-0 win against Bournemouth. 1982. Ben Ward says best game at the LNER Stadium, either Man City 4-1 or the Ipswich replay. Unbelievable nights. Mark, I'll ask for yours later on in the show. Lots and lots to get through. Let's have a look back then at the win against Burton Albion at Pirelli Stadium on Tuesday night, Mark. And lots have been made, hasn't it, about game management this season, but the young boys saw it through expertly again.
Yeah, just look at the confidence they've got. Lewis is passing the ball out from the back. They just look full of confidence again after they had that real blip, didn't they? And they look tired mentally and physically, and they just look really good going forward now. So, like I say, I just hope. For me, they've just got nothing to lose today. And I know it's a huge game, but all the pressure is on Hull. So I just hope they can go out and perform. And they did really well on Tuesday night. Everybody played their part. Defensively, another clean sheet away from home against a team that were in form. So, at the moment, they're just hitting form right at the right time.
Let's talk about this goal then. TJ Omer, his first goal in a Lincoln City shirt as well. He's turning into quite the player, isn't he?
I think, again, he's another one like Teo Eden, who's just got better and better for me. I think that, the young players have had a little bit of a blip. I talk about the tiredness mentally and physically, but they're just beginning to come into their own again now. And TJ, fantastic header, but I have to say, what a ball from Teo Eden. So, the 2 players that I think have improved so much as the season go on have combined to get a winning goal for them. And great ball in and desire from TJ to get a diving header at the far post, to lose his man. So, yeah, again, just all positives at the moment.
From a player's perspective, Mark, are those 1-0 victories the most satisfying ones? You go away from home on a Tuesday night. It wasn't a smash and grab, was it? But it's a result that sometimes does suggest a smash and grab.
If you're a centre-half, they're the best results ever away from home is a 1-0. If you're a centre-forward, you want to win 6-7-0 when you've scored a hat-trick. But no, certainly defensively, that's a perfect away performance. They've had 2 perfect away performances, a clean sheet. That's all you want when you go away from home, is to keep a clean sheet. And then it gives yourselves a chance to nick something, or to, as you quite rightly say, deserve to get something to get the 3 points. So, the basis is a clean sheet when you go away from home, and they've certainly done that. And, like I say, they've got some big, tough away games coming up as well, in the running. So, like I say, all bodes well for them at the moment. They just seem to be hitting the form at the right time.
Mark, let's move the conversation on then to the European Super League. I know we talked about it in depth on Tuesday night, and you had some great comments regarding that. A lot has happened since then, hasn't it? Because the 6 clubs involved in terms of the Premier League have all pulled out since then. Would you say that this is a big result for football? Is it the correct result?
It's the best. It's a good result and the correct result. Now, whether that's still maintained in a few seasons' time, we'll wait and see. But it's just the way it was done leaves a bit of a bitter taste for everybody. I think whoever you support in whatever division you play in, I think it's just the way it was done. If you're a football fan, that you can't treat people like that. You know, in any walk of other life, you know, if you work for a business and you were treated like that, you'd be tribunals. There'd be all kinds of, you know, implications for treating people the way they have done. So, you know, I'm a Liverpool supporter, and you know the way that the owners and everything went behind the manager, the players, the fans' backs, it's just. You know, again, I don't want to swear, but no, it's bang out of order. And, you know, that, like I say, that for me, it's still, yeah, they backtrack very quickly on the weight of everybody's, you know, dismay of what they were trying to do. But they still tried to do it. And let's not forget that. They still tried to do that. And, you know, I know there's a little bit of inkling about UEFA trying to put more games into the Champions League and all kinds of stuff like that. But that was a real threat. You know, that Super League would have been a real threat throughout the pyramid of football in this country. So I'm pleased it got the reaction it did from people, and it's nice to see all the supporters from all the different clubs, all the rivalries put aside, and basically went, no, you're not doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Well said. Let's hear the thoughts of the Lincoln City chairman now. This is what Clive Nates had to say, speaking on Sky Sports News earlier this week.
Yeah, hi, Tom. I think really when we put out our club statement yesterday, we spoke about deep sadness and dismay in response to the ESL. But I think, to be honest, it's really anger. Anger as chairman of Lincoln City, and I've only been involved with Lincoln City for 6 years. But I think it's even more anger as a fan of English football. I've been a fan of English football since a kid, but for more than 50 years. So much of my life has been determined how my team has played, whether I've been happy or moody. And to see owners, greedy owners, look to try and destroy what football in your country stands for does really make me extremely angry.
Has that feeling of anger actually got bigger? Are you more angry now a couple of days later, or has it subsided at all?
I think it's subsided a little bit. I think what has been so extremely encouraging has been the responses from the football authorities like UEFA, the Premier League, even the EFL coming out against it. I think it's been encouraging to see our fans of those big clubs, the supporters, organizations of those clubs come out against this. I think it's been very encouraging to see how vehemently your MPs, Oliver Dowden, Boris Johnson have come out against that. And I think there's encouragement that somehow a stop will be put to the ESL.
Well, you've just mentioned it there, but there's been widespread condemnation from fans, like you said, from owners of other clubs. Clubs have come out with this widespread condemnation. Is that actually enough to stop these teams breaking away? Because if those owners are only interested in money, do they even care if no one likes them?
Yeah, look, I think, you've got to hope that steps will be taken to ensure that the ESL cannot go ahead. I mean, certainly the UK government has spoken about measures that can be introduced to stop this. I mean, they do have those powers. You could introduce a super tax on those clubs. There are all sorts of other things that can be looked at to put a stop to that, and that is encouraging. And I think it is time, for the government to act. I don't think it's ideal that government has to act, but the reality is that the football authorities, especially in England, have been too weak to react to the greed and power grab of these owners.
The thoughts of Chairman Clive Nates there, of course, echoing the thoughts of just about every football fan up and down the country. Delighted to say now that the Chief Executive Officer, Liam Scully, joins us live from the LNER Stadium Media Room. Liam, lovely to see you. Just regarding the ESL, I presume you echo the thoughts there of Clive.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because obviously what you see and heard from Clive there, I assure you it wasn't quite the refined version that I got on the phone and through the text messages when it was announced. But I think the best quote I've seen, and there's been plenty of column inches and plenty of audio and video go out on this in the last few days. I think the best quote I've seen is when FIFA and UEFA look like the good guys, you really know you've made a bit of a mess of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just about summarizes it, doesn't it? Liam, if we look ahead a little bit, and I'll ask you about today's game shortly as well, because it is a huge afternoon for the club. Season ticket renewals. I know the club put out a statement a couple of weeks ago regarding this. Is there a further update? Is it something you've had a chance to think about, or is there just so much going on at the moment that it's something that's going to have to slightly be on the back burner? What's the situation?
No, definitely. We were very much, close to launching season tickets and looking forward, of course, as a football club. And Mark will know this. We've very much got our eyes and our attention on this season and making sure on the field, we see the job through. But off the field, obviously, things have to take care of itself in the background. So actually, your question's quite timely. That there'll be another announcement tomorrow, and I think as soon as Wednesday, we'll be able to get season tickets, or it's actually going to be slightly rebranded under memberships on sale. And I think the thing I would say on this, Sam, is we've taken a lot of feedback from the fans on board. I think we're not rebranding to memberships for the sake of it. We've had a lot of feedback through the fan survey, through the supporters board, and various other sources that has asked for a little bit more flexibility. We need to recognise we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So what we try to do here is come up with a number of options that kind of suits all circumstances. And equally, I'm really pleased to announce for the first time ever, and in recognition of the fan support, fans will be able to commit to their season ticket, but they don't have to pay us for that just yet. There will almost be a kind of buy now, pay later option. And hopefully what we've got right throughout this, and I'm sure the fans will be the judge of this in a few days' time, is we've just tried to recognise both the time that we're in at the moment for everybody, equally the fact that we do try and offer a range of options for circumstances, but equally just to say thank you for everybody's support over the past 12 and 18 months. We are truly humbled by the support this football club has had, and ultimately that's allowed the board, myself and others to continue backing Michael and the team, and ultimately creates the output and the product that we have seen on the field.
Oh, that's brilliant news. Liam, can I ask you about the Take a Break initiative as well? Because, I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. And I think it was the BBC that were down filming at the LNER Stadium earlier this week. Some brilliant pictures of fans enjoying a nice sunny day out at the LNER Stadium. Just tell us a little bit about that, how it came about. Is it something that other clubs are doing as well?
Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, I think it's one of the proudest things I've been involved in at this football club, because that idea came from, we were sat around a Monday morning meeting, all the team that work in the back office, and we were just talking about, isn't it a shame that the fans don't get to come and be part of the football club and see the stadium, and we were reminding ourselves how lucky we were to work at the stadium and get to smell the grass and get to remind ourselves of what's it all about, and it was just one of the team that went, well, why don't we just open the doors to the fans and every Friday let them in and go from there. And we didn't know what the response would be. We obviously very proud of the LNER Stadium and what it means to us, but sometimes you don't know how that's going to go down with the fans and whether it's something that they actually wanted. And right from the very beginning, we've done it right. Whenever legislation's allowed us to do that, we've had 40, 50 people there every Friday, just taking part and just coming to their beloved Sinsel Bank.
That's brilliant. There's some brilliant pictures there as well of the LNER Stadium. Liam, can I just ask you as well, is that something that's going to be carrying on throughout the course of the summer as well? What's the timestamp on it, just for fans watching, in terms of, obviously you mentioned there it's a Friday afternoon that they can come into the LNER Stadium and sit down and enjoy a cup of tea, maybe a steak as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. So the only thing that will stop us is we do have a significant work programme that's going on at the stadium in the summer. There's going to be over £500,000 that is going to have to be invested into the stadium. That's basically through keeping up with legislation. We are going to be installing a brand new pitch and going right into the underneath, into the drainage systems. So there's going to be a significant work programme that goes on in the stadium over the summer, and that's for two reasons. That's making sure we continue to invest off the field and improve the fan experience. So believe it or not, we'll finally get those toilets done. That comes back in every fan survey, and I'm often, as I'm doing my shopping around Tesco's, getting a little slap for the provisions that we have. But it is things like that that are so very, very important to us. You know, we of course know that we want to have an on-field product, and that gets everybody, you know, behind that. But equally, we recognise we need to make sure that, you know, we love our stadium, we love what it means, and we love what, you know, what it represents to the fans. But we've got to keep modernising it and keeping up with the times. So short answer, Sam, 100%. We'll keep Take a Break going. Obviously, just got to be aware of the works programme of the summer.
Massive game this afternoon as well. I've hopefully clicked in some pictures of the LNER. There we go, Liam. I mean, what's the feeling down at the stadium this afternoon as well, with Hull coming to the LNER?
Yeah, I've got. I normally spend 10-15 minutes with Michael when he gets here on match day and the backroom team. And, you know, I think the phrase we have is the eye of the tiger, and you can really see that you know, both the backroom team and the boys have got the bit between the teeth. It's obviously the business end of the season. You know, I've really enjoyed listening to Mark and his analysis of our games this season. And, you know, he knows from being involved in campaigns, you know, when it really gets to the point of where prizes are won or achievements are had, you know, the whole club goes into a different mode. And I think from my point of view, just being in and around it, you can sense that, and it's great to see that, you know, the boys and Michael and co are really kind of looking forward to the game, but are very much got their eyes on what's exactly needed.
The topic this afternoon, Liam, is for fans watching this, for getting their comments in on social media, is what's the best game you've ever watched at the LNER Stadium? So I'm going to absolutely put you on the spot here. For you, what's the best match you've seen?
I think the best match I've seen, just because of the outcome, would have been the trophy semi-final against Chelsea. And the reason why I say that is that, you know, it's the club's first visit to Wembley, and as I turn around in the stand, there was people that I'd known for a long time, or while I'd been at the football club, just in floods of tears. And for me, it was just nice to see what it means. So it wasn't necessarily about the 90 minutes, because it wasn't particularly a fantastic game. But I think it was just about the sum total of the achievement that the club had, the journey that it had been on. You know, I'd been very fortunate. You know, I'd only just joined that season, and very much piggybacked on the success brought by Dan and Nick and everybody that had been at the football club. But just to turn around and see what it meant to the fans, I think as a chief exec and the guy that works in the office and does a lot of pen pushing, I suppose it was just a reminder of what the club means to people. And yeah, that was a great moment, I think, for me.
It's a great answer. It's a great shout, Liam. Really appreciate your time. Do enjoy the game this afternoon.
Thanks, Sam.
Lovely to get the thoughts there of the Chief Executive Officer, Liam Scully, with some news regarding season tickets. That'll be coming out in the next few days, so do keep your eye on weareimps.com for that as well. Let's bring Mark Hone back into the conversation then. Mark, I mean, that was a really poignant answer at the end, wasn't it, regarding, you know, when you ask fans or people that work at the club who are football fans as well, what their best game that they've seen is, it so often falls back to a moment, as opposed, you know, a moment off the pitch as opposed to a moment on the pitch.
Yeah, I think you know, different games will mean different things for different people. So, you know, again, it's with the fans, it's all about opinions. It's all about what was going on maybe in their lives at that time, and what the football club meant to them at that time for that game to have that specific or a sentimental kind of reason as to why you've won a game, lost a game. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're going to get loads of different replies to what the best game was or their favourite game. But I just really like Liam Scully. I just think he comes across so well in how he approaches things at the club. You can just tell there's a little bit of steel about him, isn't there? You can just tell that, but he's so 100% committed to the football club and to the fans as well. He's got a horrible job to do in balancing the books to get the income coming in, but also making sure the fans and the backroom staff and Michael and everybody else is quite happy. So, you know, he says he's pen pushing. It's a lot more than that. I'm sure there's a hell of a lot more to his job description than just doing what he said there. So yeah, he's doing a fantastic job behind the scenes, that's for sure. As is Clive, obviously.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Mark, I know this is a Lincoln City show, so it's easy for me to say this, but I mean, it is a very, very difficult time at the moment. You're trying to make decisions that are benefiting a business going forward, whilst also being mindful that there's a global pandemic and that another lockdown may occur. And it's about getting that balance right between almost progression and sort of, I don't know, safety, I guess, isn't it? And then the club seem to be doing that.
Yeah, they have, and I think hopefully we're out of the worst of it. Fingers crossed. So that, you know, I would imagine it was probably horrific the first, you know, going back a year when different things were coming out all the time about the pandemic and what they can and what they can't do, and then fans weren't allowed back in, fans were allowed back in, you know, and all that kind of, you know, that juggling of plates that they probably had to do throughout the last 12 months, 14 months. So, you know, at long last, fingers crossed, we might be coming out the other end. And I just hope for the club's sake that they can get the fans back in and it can just smooth, ease its way into being that smooth full house at the LNER Stadium. And, you know, hopefully that will happen very, very soon for everybody.
Absolutely. Team news coming to you live from the LNER Stadium in around about 2.5 minutes time. In the meantime, we're going to show you highlights of a very, very special game indeed, because this week marked 4 years to the day since the Imps beat Macclesfield, and it was a pretty good outcome as well. Here's the best of the action.
This is Wood for Lincoln. Good ball to find Matt Reid, a lovely back heel as well. And Angol and Hawkridge, and Angol, great save! Hawkridge! 1-1! Lincoln City back on terms. Terry Hawkridge with the goal.
Well, again, Lee Angol had this held up. Certainly had Terry Hawkridge on the outside of him. He could have played it then. It's a shot on target. But like all great players do, you have to follow in on rebounds. Again, no surprise that Matt Reid, that delicate little flick into Nathan Arnold. Just don't quite get tight enough, Macclesfield. Keeper does all he can. That spin shot from Angol. That's a brilliant follow-up there from Terry Hawkridge. That composed finish into the top corner, and it's a great comeback from Lincoln.
Holroyd! Oh, what an effort! And a top save it forced as well from Farman.
Well, it's a great save from him. He knows he's going to make that save and clatter into the post as well. Nice ball to Knott.
Ginnelli on the outside. Angol central. Hawkridge. Oh, Hawkridge! He's found that bottom corner! Lincoln City have the goal that could take them to the league title. Hawkridge at the double, his second of the game.
Quite brilliant goal from Terry Hawkridge. You always felt that this was coming on and on and on. They circle the ball brilliantly in the edge of the box. Really has no right there to score.
Long it goes from Scott Flinders. The last minute here at Sincil Bank. Whittaker got his head to it. Whitehead. In it goes, it's a dangerous ball! Oh, what a chance! Right at the end.
And when your luck's in, your luck's in. That should have been the goal that Tranmere were hoping that would hit the back of the net.
Champions! Lincoln City are heading back to the Football League. Their 6-year absence ended by Danny Cowley and his players. Potential unlocked. A dream is realised. The Imps back where they feel they belong. Something so special has happened at Sincil Bank this season. Ryan Barwick presenting the trophy. Lincoln City are National League champions. The Imps are finally back in the Football League, and that's how good it feels.
Yeah, no words needed. Right, it's 2 o'clock, which means one thing and one thing only. We can get today's Lincoln City team news to face Hull City at the LNER Stadium. Here's Alan Long.
Thanks, Sam, and welcome to a lovely day here at the LNER Stadium. And I can tell you straight away there's one change. George Grant starts, and that means James Jones drops to the bench. And talking to the bench, we've also got Tom Hopper and Liam Bricott on the bench as well. So the Imps side is number 1, Alex Palmer, At 2, Regan Poole. At 4, Lewis Monsmer. At 7, Teo Aiden. At 10, George Grant. Number 11 is Anthony Scully. 18, Conor McGrandles. 19, Callum Morton. At 20, Brennan Johnson. 22, TJ Ioma. And Morgan Rogers is at 27. So that bench today, number 31, Sam Long. 6, Max Sanders. James Jones is at 8. 9, Tom Hopper. 15, Cohen Bramall. 23, Liam Bridcut. And 26, Harry Anderson. So that starting lineup again: Alex Palmer, Regan Poole, Lewis Monsmer, Teo Eden, George Grant, Anthony Scully, Conor McGrandles, Callum Morton, Brennan Johnson, TJ Ioma and Morgan Rogers. Just before I go, we've tried to incorporate all of the stadium this season for you, the fans, so you've had a little bit of view of what it's been like down here. But we're going to finish up next week right up there in the gantry. So for now, back to you in the studio.
Look forward to it, Al. Thanks very much for that. Yeah, big news then. George Grant, the captain, back in today's Lincoln City starting 11, and the club captain, Liam Bridcut, back on the bench as well, alongside Tom Hopper. So excellent news all round for Michael Appleton this afternoon. The team in full is Alex Palmer, Regan Poole, TJ Ioma, Lewis Monsmer, and Teo Eden. The aforementioned George Grant, the captain this afternoon. He's alongside Conor McGrandles and Brennan Johnson. It is then Morgan Rogers, Anthony Scully and Callum Morton. Substitutes bench reads as follows: Long, Sanders, Jones, Hopper, Bramall, Bridcut and Anderson. Mark, let's put the bones of that then. George Grant back in the starting 11.
Yeah, it's fantastic news, isn't it? He obviously had no ill effects from the 20 minutes or so we got on Tuesday night. So, yeah, fantastic for the club, that is. And dare I say, you wouldn't really change too much. I mean, obviously, George is the talisman, really, if you like. So, you know, he's bound to have come back in. But, you know, again, we'll talk about it in a minute. But certainly, for me, the back four have been really solid. I know Conor Bramall's on the bench again today. But you can't really change that back four. And it also will give Michael great, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Great encouragement that those four have done really well there. And so, you know, he doesn't have to rush with Jackson and Joe Walsh coming back. So, you know, it's just all positive at the moment for Lincoln City. You think about it 6 weeks ago, it was all doom and gloom. We're not going to make the playoffs and we're still in the outside chance of getting automatic. So, you know, how football can change very quickly.
Well, it is amazing, isn't it, Mark, just how quickly it can change, you know, and you would hope that, you know, should it be a playoffs finish, that the club now can go into it with A, some momentum, and B, just about a fully fit squad, which, touch wood, at the moment, that would seem to be the case.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? You know, it looks like come the end of the season, everybody hopefully will be back fit, as long as nobody picks up any knocks between now and the end of the season. So, you know, Michael Appleton then has got some big decisions to make about who he plays in these playoff games. So, you know, at the moment, his hand's been forced a little bit, so to speak, with his team selection. But if he's got a fully fit squad, then it's on his head. He has to make sure he picks the right players for the right game. So tactically, physically, mentally, they all got to be making sure, you know, the backroom staff and Michael, that he's picking the best side he thinks can get them, you know, get him promoted. So sometimes managers, you know, their hands are kind of behind their backs a little bit with team selection. But it looks like I've said, you know, more players are coming back. Bridcut's on the bench. You've still got Joe Walsh, you know, Jackson to come back. So, fully fit squad. Michael Appleton, who are you going to select?
Well, that's the quandary for a manager, isn't it? It's a good quandary to have as well. You mentioned Liam Bridcut there, club captain. What a big boost it is to have him back available as well, because the record when he's in the side, okay, when he's in the starting 11, but that record in itself, it does speak for itself, doesn't it? It's very, very strong indeed, and there's no surprise why. It
does, yeah. I mean, obviously he's got huge experience. You know, he's been around the game a long time professionally, and so he knows what's required. And you know, it's just slightly disappointing he's not played the amount of games that hopefully, well, he should have done. And Michael, obviously, Appleton was hoping he was going to play because he's got a huge influence to have over these young players. So I'm sure, you know, Michael will be looking after him, making sure that he's in and around the squad, whether he's on the bench, just to kind of guide the youngsters when they're doing the warm-up, you know, at half-time. You know, when he's in and around the training ground, just having that experienced head, calm, just assured, and just making sure these young players continue what they've been doing, which has been a fantastic season. Regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season, whether they get promoted, whether they don't, it's been a fantastic season of, you know, some of the football is the best I've seen from a Lincoln City side for a long, long, long time.
Mark, you mentioned the manager there, Michael Appleton. Let's get the thoughts from him now. He was asked in his pre-match press conference yesterday how much of a motivation it is to beat Hull City. This is what he had to say.
It'd be more of a motivation if our fans were there. You know, I mean, I've said it many times, Rob, this year, like that type of everything that goes with the game a little bit, just it's not the same. And listen, of course, it's a motivation. We don't want anyone to have that type of enjoyment, you know, at our home ground. But it is very much just focus on the game rather than what happens if we don't win the game. It's like literally, if we can pick up the 3 points, it's the 3 points closer to what we want and what we want to achieve. And we know it's going to be a really difficult game because the reality is we're playing the side that, you know, regardless of what happens tomorrow, I generally think we're going to be playing the side that will win the league. So that's how difficult a task it is going to be. We've had 2 very, very difficult games against them. We've got a lot of good players, big squad, expectations on them. So, yeah, it should be a good game.
It sounds a silly question, as you say, with them possibly winning the title, but it's been a very strange season. Have they been the best side you've played, or just the most consistent side, do you think, in League One?
Yeah, I mean, we've had quite a few good performances against us from sides, and that's, you know, that's it's a difficult question to answer in terms of, like I say, like, you know, we've had some performance against us where you go, like, oh, they're a good side, they played well, and then they might have lost in the next 4 games. You know, they might have just played well in that game, but I think they've definitely been the most consistent side. And obviously, like I say, they, you know, I don't have to spell it out. They've got a very big squad and a very healthy budget, as we know. But the reality is, you've got to use that to your advantage, and you've still got to go and do the business. And obviously, that's what they have done. They've got a group of sort of players who clearly motivated to make sure they go straight back up into the Championship, because obviously there's quite a few of the players who come down from the Championship last year, and that would have hurt them and probably give them that extra motivation that they needed this season.
Yeah, Michael Appleton giving his pre-match thoughts to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace there. Mark, where do you stand on Hull City so far this season? Because there's a good question that Rob asked there regarding the difference between the best side in the division and the most consistent side in the division. And clearly Hull City are the most consistent side in the division. Would you say that they're the best?
The table doesn't lie. I wrote some statistics down here. I mean, they've scored the most goals in the league and they conceded the least in the league. That says everything to me. That's why they're top of the league and will go up. Let's hope it's not today, because like Michael Appleton says, I know it's a freebie for Lincoln, but you don't want celebrations on your own pitch from anybody, let alone a kind of a near derby. You don't want Hull City celebrating on the pitch. It's your pitch, and you want to make sure that they don't go up today. That would be the biggest motivation as well. I've been in games where that's happened to me, and it's horrible when you're leaving your own ground, you know, jumping up and down and celebrating on your pitch. That doesn't happen, and I'm sure that'll be a big motivation for Lincoln City today.
With that in mind, then, Mark, are we expecting Hull City to come flying out the traps this afternoon? What will Michael be expecting?
I think it's going to be difficult for Hull, because I think Lincoln have obviously proven to Hull over, you know, the couple of games, the 3 games they've played in this season, that their transition, I call this transition. Lincoln City, when the opposition give Lincoln City the ball, especially in Lincoln's defensive third, they're very good at springing attacks very quickly. So I think Hull will be very cagey. I think they won't come out of their shape too quickly. So, you know, obviously if there's a chance to break, they will. But I think they will be very, very aware of Lincoln City's counter threat and also the pace that Lincoln City has in the team. So, and we've seen it with Lincoln, they can devastate teams with pace. So I think the Hull will be very cagey early on and just see how the game develops. And I'm pretty sure they'll be using bite chunks of the game. So the first 15 minutes, keep it really tight, don't give anything away. And the next 15 minutes, can we impose ourselves a little bit more? And I think they'll just break the game up into little parts where they might be able to then try and, you know, impose their game on Lincoln City rather than the other way around. So it's an intriguing game. And like I say, I think it will come down to who holds their nerve best that will come out on top here.
Let's move the conversation on, Mark, and talk about Tom Hopper then, because he's back in the squad today, been out for a while with an injury. He is something different to Callum Morton, isn't he? It was brilliant when we had Callum back after such a long time out. It's now great that Tom's back because they are two completely different players.
They are. They're completely different, and it depends who we're playing against. I think it depends if we're playing away from home. If we're playing at home, it might be that Michael Appleton sees a defensive weakness as to why they might be the two centre halves might not be quite quick. They might be a little bit flat-footed and not on their toes as much. In which case, Morton's ideal because he'll go in behind and he'll want to stretch them in behind. Whereas if they've got two fairly good centre halves, quick centre halves, then you probably want to play Tom Hopper because you want third man runners. So you want the midfield to be able to engage nearer to Tom Hopper so they can run in behind. So I think it just depends on what opposition they're playing. I think Tom Hopper's the main centre forward, I do. And I think Michael will go to him at some point in the next few games. And that's nothing against Callum Morton, but I just think, Tom Hopper's been the mainstay so far this season. But you're coming into the period where his hamstring, hamstring injuries are weird. Once you've done a hamstring, you have a weakness there. So it's got to be built in slowly. So, if Tom might get, it depends how the game goes today, Tom might get 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to see if he gets a reaction from his hamstring. But certainly I would expect Tom to come back into the side before the end of the season.
Interesting stuff, Mark. Right, let's get the pre-match thoughts from Remy Howarth then, who's giving his pre-match press conference yesterday. He was asked about a new member of his family.
Yeah, we've got a new puppy called Benzo. He's a flat-coated retriever. And he's keeping us on our toes, to be fair. But he's 8 weeks, 4 days, and we've had him 4 days, so he's learning quick. He kept us up a few nights, but yeah, he's already got the hang of being in a cage and going out to the loo, so it's all good.
When are you introducing him to a football?
I already have. Kicking it around in the garden, practicing a bit with him, and he's getting the hang of it. He was scared the first day, but yeah, he's loving it now.
It is an exciting run-in. We know it's an exciting time. How excited are you to be involved as part of Lincoln City in this?
It's amazing. Like just seeing all the fans on. There was a video on Instagram and Twitter yesterday with the fans. I think it was in 2017. I think it was. And just seeing that atmosphere just got me fired up. And it would be amazing if the fans were here now. But we know they're all behind us. But it's amazing. The vibe in the club as well is really good. We've got our confidence back. 3 games, I think it is. Clean sheet as well, so that's really good.
Yeah, you could listen to him talk all day. Remy Howarth there giving his pre-match thoughts to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace. Mark, he speaks so well, doesn't he? But not only that, even if you had him on mute, you only have to see it in his face how much he's enjoying life at the club. That's how it should be.
But it's just like it's just like a kid in the playground, isn't he? With a football, he just wants to play football. He's just enthused about the whole club. There's a clear fondness for the club, the players who he's playing with, the management. He's been on the fringes. He's played a couple of games where I think he's done quite well. There's other games where he's not been quite involved. So hopefully at some point he may get a longer run in the team. But unfortunately, he's just got players in front of him that at the moment I would say are better. Their performances mean that he's struggling to get himself in and starting at 11. But his enthusiasm for the club, for just playing football in general, I think is infectious, and you can see it there. He just the biggest smile on his face. He's just absolutely loving it. So I wish him all the best. I hope he can force his way into this team at some point, whatever that might be.
Well, he did mention that word team a couple of times in that short clip that we had there, Mark, as well. And he knows his role, doesn't he? We saw him come on against Burton Albion on Tuesday night, pivotal point in the game against what is now a very good Burton Albion side, who would have fancied their chances on at least scoring on the night. He came on, held the ball up brilliantly in the corner. You need those players as well, especially when you're going for promotion.
Yeah, he looks like he doesn't get the ump when he's not picked. He looks like as a substitute, he wants to come on, he wants to affect the game, he wants to do what he needs to do for the team. And he's a manager's dream on the bench because you just know that you'll get enthusiasm. He'll if you instruct him to do something, he will want to go and do that to his best of his ability. So on the bench, he's a dream to have because, like I say, if you just give him the nod, he'll go and do whatever you say. If you said to him, right, go and play right back, he'll go and play right back. You know, if Alex Palmer got injured, he'll go, right, I'll go and goal. He's just one of them infectious players that you just want in and around the dressing room. And he just looks like he's just, like you say, loving life.
Today's topic on Matchday Live is the best game that you've ever watched at the LNER Stadium. Do get your comments in regarding this. Plenty have come through already. And a couple for this game, Mark. James Brown, I'll read it. Best game at Sincil Bank ever was 5-3 against Scunthorpe in the playoffs. It's a good shout.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights. Fantastic game. You know, I think it was Simon Yeo, was it, that was banging goals in and all. Yeah, I mean, Simon, I love Simon. I've played with him a few times in some legend games, and he's a real character. But yeah, a bit of a hero down at LNR Stadium. So yeah, it was good to watch because you just felt the atmosphere, didn't you? There, the local rivals, and I'm sure that'll become quite a few of the fans' top game, I think.
And plenty of the fans, and rightly so, Mark, are asking me to ask you what your favourite game at the LNER Stadium was. So tell me.
As usual, Sam, I've got a couple, of course. The one I played in was the Manchester City game, obviously. And do you know what? The other one, believe it or not, was a home game against Rochdale. We lost 1-0. Lincoln were awful, but it was my son's debut. That was my favourite game.
Okay, well, let's pick both of those apart then, and let's start with the City game, because what an atmosphere! What was that game like to play in? Quite simply,
amazing. Manchester City, I think, were in League One at the time. They just come down from what they call a Championship, and they were still having some, Georgie Kincladze. I'll tell you a bit of a story, maybe not today, but a different story about me and Terry Fleming and Georgie Kincladze in the return leg at Main Road. It's hilarious, but they still had some really, really good players then, and they were still on big money, and it was just a fantastic atmosphere. And you knew, again, when you went out, the team bonding we had there, you just knew that we were going to really give them a real tough game. They were in for something they really weren't probably expecting, and I think we went 1-0 down in the first couple of minutes. Rossler scored, and we were thinking, oh, here we go again, but we just had that never say die attitude, and we just were not going to lie down and let this go without a real fight. And they couldn't cope with us, put it bluntly. They couldn't cope with the long ball, the long throw-ins, the physicality of us. We were just tough to beat. We were just, put it bluntly, we were pretty horrible to play against as a bunch of players.
Uwe Rosler, Georgie Kincladze, not a bad side. And Danny's debut. Tell me about that. How much, because I guess the differing emotion for you then is quite simply pride. You've got the buzz of playing in a game against Manchester City, beating them, and the atmosphere that comes with that. And then you've got the emotional pride that comes with seeing your son. Because you said it was Danny's debut, the one that...
It was a debut, yeah. He was on the bench against Brentford the week before. I went all the way down to Brentford and he didn't get on. So I was a little bit disappointed. But obviously, Peter Jackson at the time was obviously biding his time with him, and he'd been playing really well in the youth team and in the reserves, and you just thought he might get a chance. And then at the Rochdale game, I think it was in the first half, about 30 odd minutes gone, I think, in the game, and Lee Beavers, who Dan was very good friends with and still very good friends with, went down and dislocated his shoulder. And I just remember, all the substitutes going to warm up, and then Peter just called Danny over, and I just kind of looked and went, oh, he's going on. And then it's a mixture of so much emotion, Sam. You're buzzing he's gone on, and then the reality hits of, oh, he's actually going to play now. So, I just hope he does all right. And the first corner that come in, he put a big centre-half header on it and headed it out the penalty area. And I'm like, yeah, he's going to be all right here. And he had a wonderful game. They lost 1-0, but he had a wonderful debut. And, yeah, a real proud dad sat up there, and yeah, it was fantastic. That was, my favourite game anyway, for obvious reasons.
Two brilliant stories, Mark. Thanks very much for that. Right, let's see what happened when the two sides, Lincoln City and Hull City, met earlier on in the season. This is what happened at a rather boggy KCOM Stadium. Yeah, you get the impression, Mark, or certainly from what you said before we watched that VT, that that game in itself was a game of two halves and a rather tight game in one sense, and it may well be that case this afternoon as well.
Yeah, I think it will be. Like I said before, I think it will be a tight game. I think both teams will have moments in the game, have phases in the game, whether they'll enjoy a lot of possession, and it'll just be who holds their nerve. One mistake might cost the team, lack of concentration. So, it's going to be in the fine details this afternoon, I think, as to how the outcome of this game is going to go. And, Hull have got some really good players, certainly going forward. You look at Milan Wilkes, Keane Lewis-Potter, Josh McGuinness. I mean, Josh McGuinness has played 58 times for Northern Ireland, so it's not bad, is it? And then they probably, so they say, have got the best midfield player in George Honeyman, who's got he's got the second best assists in the league as well. So along with the most goals scored, least amount of goals conceded, they're a formidable team. So Lincoln have really got to be on their mettle this afternoon to get a result. But I've got confidence they can this afternoon. I really do.
Let's hope you're right. If you're only just joining us, let me remind you of today's Lincoln City starting 11. Michael Appleton making a couple of changes. No, sorry, Michael Appleton making just the one change that beat Burton Albion on Tuesday night, I should say. Alex Palmer, Regan Poole, TJ Omer, Lewis Monsman, Teo Eden. So the back four is exactly the same. George Grant makes his first start since the defeat against Plymouth a couple of months ago. He's alongside Conor McGrandles and Brennan Johnson. Morgan Rogers, Anthony Scully and Callum Morton, the front three. Long, Sanders, Jones, Hopper, Bramall, Bridcut and Anderson. Mark, in terms of the starting 11, we've talked a little bit about TJ Omer. He's once again alongside Lewis Monsmith. It's a very, very young centre-back pairing, isn't it? But, if the last two games are anything to go by, they're playing like 27-year-olds, 28-year-olds.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think they've done exceptionally well. We spoke before, the game where the Bristol Rovers, where we thought the two 21-year-olds, can they deal with it? And, well, we've been proven wrong, haven't they? Well, we were a little bit sceptical as to whether they could or not, but certainly they've both proven, Lewis and TJ, that they can step up and play centre half, even at that tender age that they are. So I think TJ's a real prospect. I think Lewis has probably still got a little bit to learn, but I think TJ's a real asset to the football club, and it wouldn't surprise me if, I don't know how long he's got his contract at Tottenham. I haven't looked into that, I have to be honest, but certainly I would, if we could get him for next season, regardless of what league we're in, that would be a tremendous buy, because he's proven he can play right back and centre half. So, I don't know what the financial situation is with Tottenham and what he's earning and stuff like that. I mean, obviously that will have to come into it, but certainly I think he's another player that's just got better and better and better. And, I can't sing his praises highly enough. 21 years of age, and he looks like he's played there all his life. So, fair play to him. Really, really outstanding young player.
Certainly so, Mark. 5 minutes left of today's Matchday Live. Really appreciate your comments and you for joining us on this afternoon's show. Let's talk a little bit about the League One fixtures then. Some of the big ones coming up in the division this afternoon. You'll see Pompey Bristol Rovers at the top of your screen there. That was a 1 o'clock kickoff. The last time I checked, Portsmouth, courtesy of a Ronan Curtis goal, were beating Bristol Rovers 1-0. In terms of other big games this afternoon, Mark, obviously Charlton-Peterborough certainly stands out. Charlton going great guns under Nigel Adkins. I don't know if Nigel's ever a man that you came across in football. Seems to, A, certainly know his stuff, but B, be a really positive influence as well. And he's certainly doing that with Charlton. Yeah, that's a huge game, isn't it? That's a massive game for both clubs, that. So, I'm sure Lincoln fans will be keeping one eye on that as well as they're watching the games. But certainly, Nigel, if you go on Twitter and follow him on Twitter, he's so positive about everything. Through the COVID break, everything was positive. And he's just an infectious character. You can see that. He just wants the best from people. And his man management, I'm sure, as Charlton were just wavering, weren't they? They were mid-table. They weren't sure if they were going to make it. But certainly they've gone on a really good run. They're banging form. And that's going to be a real tough ask for Peterborough there, especially on the back of that 1-0 home defeat, against Gillingham. So, tough game for both teams. Be interested to see who comes out on top on that one. If it's Charlton, I mean, Lincoln, if they can get a result today, that's wow. I mean, it puts it back in the pot for the automatics, doesn't it? So, like I say, so many twists and turns, Sam, to come. Yeah, certainly so, Mark. I mean, if we take a look at some of the other big fixtures, as you can see the league table there. Which ones stand out for you then? Because obviously, I mean, in one sense, that the playoff race is still wide open, isn't it, Mark? But you look at some of those games. I mean, Sunderland obviously just ahead of us in the league table as well. They'll be hoping to beat Accrington Stanley this afternoon.
Yeah, they've not won in 5, Sunderland. I mean, they had a good result, Tuesday or midweek against Hull, so that will give them some confidence. But they've not won in 5 games, and they're as Lincoln are coming into form, Sunderland are going back out of form. So, and Accrington are a dangerous side, really inconsistent. So anything can happen with that one.
Let's have a look at the remaining fixtures then for the Imps, the final 4. Let's have a look at these then, because it's Shrewsbury Town away. Massive game, isn't it? May the 1st, Peterborough United, the aforementioned Charlton as well, and Wimbledon. Certainly, I mean, look, all 4 of them, obviously, for varying reasons, are big games, but those 2 against Peterborough and Charlton, hopefully, by then the playoffs will be sewn up, Mark.
You hope so, wouldn't you? Hope so. By the time they get to Shrewsbury, and if they can beat Shrewsbury, they probably may pick 4 points up, get points a day, beat Shrewsbury. That should be done and dusted then, unless Portsmouth go on an amazing run. So hopefully, come Shrewsbury on Tuesday night, I'm hoping we're in the playoffs, in which case, it then just depends how Peterborough are doing. If Peterborough win the next couple, then, it's game over, isn't it, really? So, it's just in the melting point. I'm sure Lincoln will secure playoffs. That's not a problem. It's just how Peterborough are going to do in them games. And like I say, if it's still, I'm hoping and praying that it's still on. The Peterborough-Lincoln game at Peterborough will be fantastic, wouldn't it? I mean, God, what a game that will be. If Lincoln can close close down that gap down to 4 points, it's true. Then you have to go to Charlton, who will probably may have secured their playoffs. Again, so Charlton might need points as well. So, oh dear. 4 brilliant games to come. Yeah, nail-biting stuff.
Certainly so. Mark, let's finish with a score prediction then this afternoon. No pressure, but Gary Hutchinson has done pretty well so far this season. So you've only got the whole of the Lincoln City fan base waiting on your every word.
I'm going to go for a really nervous 1-0 win to Lincoln.
We like it. Full of optimism. Mark, really appreciate your time on today's Matchday Live and for stepping in at such a last minute as well. You've been a brilliant pundit.
Thank you very much, Sam. Good luck to Lincoln. Fingers crossed.
Well said, Mark, indeed. Great to hear the thoughts of former Imp and BBC Radio Lincolnshire summariser Mark Hone there. A couple of, plenty of comments, I should say, coming in regarding Gary Hutchinson as well, asking where Gary is. Gary's recovering from his COVID vaccine, so we certainly wish Gary a speedy recovery. Myself and Gary will be back on Tuesday night, all being well. Do enjoy today's game as well, and fingers crossed the Imps can beat Hull and get 1 step closer to promotion. Bye for now.